Today, we are talking about a very juicy topic for small business owners. If you want to scale your business, newsflash, you are not going to be able to do it on your own. At some point, you're going to have to grow your team. Now, depending on where you are in your business, that may look different. You may be ready to hire full-time employees. You may want to rely on interns or maybe even contractors. But in this video, I'm going to give you some of my best tips for how you can minimize your costs when it comes to building your team so you can grow your business. So make sure you stick around and get all the juicy deets.
There's no stopping me now. I know my shot sit down. Money's all over me. I'm called to be rich and be free.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. I am Ebony Evaughn, your go-to business operations strategist, here to help you grow your business through people and systems. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on the people's aspect, and I'm going to give you my best cost-effective tips for how you can actually start to grow your business by hiring a team. Regardless of where you are in your business, big or small, being able to hire the right talent is going to be essential when it comes to your business growth. Now, with that being said, my background is in human resources. I was a human resource professional for a while, and I know firsthand that for most businesses, their most expensive cost is their employees. Being able to hire employees, pay for salaries as well as benefits and insurance can be very costly. That is why typically when you see a business starting to scale back, the first thing they typically look at is the human capital, right? They look at the employees that they have on their team. They look where there may be duplicates. You have a lot of people in different roles, but kind of fulfilling the same job duties and functions. And so you start to see reduction in force. People will start cutting down those job responsibilities, consolidating what used to be across 3 people into 1. And that is because typically human resources, people, employees is the largest expense for the average company. Now, if you're a small business owner, you are probably like, girl, you ain't got to tell me. I already know. I'm trying to grow a team right now, and I can't afford full-time employees, right? If that is you, stick around because I'm going to give you tips for how you can grow your team, even if you are on a bootstrap budget. In this video, I'm going to share some tips and best practices that can help you minimize those hiring costs. But before we do, I want to ask you a quick question. Let me know down in the comments below this video, what is currently your biggest challenge when it comes to hiring for your business? Is it the hiring process itself, like trying to recruit people, trying to find the right talent? Is it turnover? Are you finding people, but then once you hire them, it turns out they're not the right fit, they don't have the appropriate skills? Maybe it's the resources, right? You don't have the time, you don't have the money. Let me know what your biggest challenge is down in the comments. While you're dropping your responses down in the comments, let's get into tip number 1 for how you can minimize costs when it comes to hiring in your business. And this is going to be to make sure that you clearly define your job roles and responsibilities. Now, I know you may be thinking like, well, I already know I want to hire a social media manager, or I already know I want to hire an operations manager, or whatever that role may be. But have you actually taken the time to define the roles and responsibilities for that person? And the reason why I say this is because when you clearly define the roles and responsibilities, you know exactly who it is that you want to hire. It's going to prevent you from, number 1, over hiring. So you don't want to hire 3 people and then there's duplicates, or there's duplicity, there's overlapping between their job functions and what they're doing. Or you don't want to have a lot of turnover, right? You don't want to hire the wrong person and then realize that's not who you need. And this is something that I've come across many times. So I am a business operations manager, and typically what I do is I help my clients when it comes to streamlining their tech stack, their processes. I help them grow their team, and oftentimes people will hire virtual assistants or an executive assistant assistant and they think this is going to be the person that has the skill set to help me to actually optimize these systems. And a virtual assistant is more of someone who's going to help you when it comes to the administrative aspects of your business, the day-to-day operations, helping you to do the daily tasks that need to get done, responding to customer inquiries, right? And while they typically work in a lot of the systems, or they're the ones that are performing the processes that you've implemented in your business, they're typically not the people who create the processes or who set up the systems. So they may not have the wisdom or the knowledge to be able to do those things. You will be surprised how many times I have clients come to me and they're like, oh, I hired a OBM and they told me I really needed an operations manager. Or they'll say, oh, I hired an executive assistant and they told me that I really needed to come find you, right? And sometimes people come to me and they're like, I'm looking for someone who can manage my calendar, someone who can manage my inbox. And I'm like, you don't really need an operations specialist for that. You can hire a virtual assistant, right? So it goes both ways. You want to make sure that you can hire the right person for the right role and responsibilities. And in addition to that, when you clearly define what it is that you need in your role, it's going to help you hire the right person that's the right fit. All right, so now that we have the formalities out the way, we're just making sure that you have clearly defined roles and responsibilities so you know who to hire. Let's talk about how you can actually fill those roles. So the second tip that I have for you when it comes to minimizing your hiring costs, and this is going to be to consider hiring contractors. So I already mentioned how for the average company, typically employees are their biggest expense. One of the reasons why typically employees can be very costly is because once they work over a certain number of hours, especially here in the United States, we have labor laws, we have special requirements. So there are certain benefits that come along with full-time employee status, right? So typically when it comes to hiring employees, not only are you going to be responsible for their salary, but you also have to consider additional perks and benefits, insurance expenses that you may be responsible for as their employer. So that is one reason why I always recommend, if you're in a position where you're like, I need help in my business, but I'm not really at a place where I'm ready to hire a full-time employee, you can consider hiring contractors instead. So typically when you're hiring a contractor, this person is considered a 1099 employee. So instead of having to deal with the costly expenses of hiring full-time employees, you can hire contractors that can work with you. Maybe it could be hourly or project based, but you're only focused on the pay for the actual task that they're doing, and you don't have to cover any additional expenses such as insurance and things like that. So that is always going to be an option for you, okay? Now, in addition, I'm going to give you a bonus tip, okay? When it comes to working with consultants, one thing that you can do that can help you minimize your costs even further, if you're working with freelancers and consultants, I mentioned that you can work with them hourly or project based. If you want to really control your costs and how much money you're spending, it's best to work on fixed rates or to have project-based packages. So for example, you may decide that you want to hire a virtual assistant and you're going to pay your virtual assistant $20 an hour. Now, $20 an hour can add up fairly quickly, believe it or not, if you're not paying attention to the tasks that you're constantly assigning to your virtual assistant. So one week you may be paying them 30 hours, the next week it may be 15 hours, but when you're paying them hourly, that amount can fluctuate from week to week depending on what they're doing. But if you want to have more predictable expenses and you want to control your costs, consider talking with your freelancers and asking them if they are going to be willing to do a fixed rate contract. So typically you guys can agree upon either a assigned number of tasks that they will perform or a specific number of hours that they work week to week. And so that way your costs will be a little bit more controlled. that's just a little bonus tip, okay? Now, if you enjoyed that bonus tip, make sure you like this video if you haven't already. And if you aren't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Go ahead, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you can get the next video I upload that's just like this, okay? Now, let's keep it going and get into the third tip for how you can minimize costs when it comes to hiring for your business. And this is going to be leveraging interns. So a lot of people really sleep on interns, but interns can be really beneficial not only for you, but the interns that you bring into your business. So this is something that I used very early on in my business. I relied heavily on marketing interns to help me when it came to marketing aspects, but it was a win-win. So you can actually reach out to local colleges that may be in your local area, and you can say, hey, like, I would really like to be able to sponsor interns for the semester, for the upcoming school year. Can you assign me someone? Typically they'll have a process for you to go through, paperwork, and then you can decide what type of interns you want. If it's a specific major, you can go through all of that protocol, right? But essentially, when it comes to leveraging interns, there are paid interns as well as non-paid interns. So depending on the school, depending on the program, you may actually be able to get an intern where you don't have to cover any of the costs at all, or you may be in a position to where you can actually hire interns and give them a small stipend as well. So that is a great way for college students to get those intern credits and get some real world experience, and you're also getting support in your business. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the next tip when it comes to minimizing your costs. And this is great when it comes to small businesses that are looking to grow and scale. And this is something that I love to do myself, even when I'm working with contractors. And this is to consider hiring entry-level employees or contractors. And so one of the reasons why this can be really beneficial is typically when someone doesn't already have a skill set or they're new at something, their fees or the cost isn't going to be as much. But then also, if you know you're in a place where you're growing and scaling, if that person is entry level, then they have an opportunity to grow and scale with your business, right? So you guys know, the top of this year, I had to hire a new virtual assistant. Last year, the virtual assistant that I had, she actually ended up going from being a virtual assistant to actually being an online business manager. And through that process, she took on more roles and responsibilities and more tasks within the business because her skill set was growing. I can't remember the name of the program that she took, but basically she went to this program that helped virtual assistants transition into OBMs. And so through that transition, I saw how much her skill set was really changing, how she focused more on strategy, just like the way she looked at things, the way she became more proactive. So I really saw, oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. So like, I really saw her grow and transition in that process. And while I am sad to see her go, I am definitely, this is not supposed to be one of those videos. But while I was sad to see her leave, I was really happy to see the growth that she had, you know. And everyone is not meant to be with you forever, but when she first came, she was like new to virtual assisting, and I really taught her the things that I needed her to know. She was able to grow with me, and so that made my job a lot easier. That made our relationship a lot easier, and it was beneficial for both of us. She learned a lot from me, and she supported my business and my vision a lot. So it was a two-way thing. So you can always consider hiring entry-level employees, and then that way you can kind of teach them what it is that you want them to know, and they can grow with your company. They can expand into other roles. They can then train other people. So it's beneficial all the way around. Now let's jump back in with the next tip when it comes to hiring to grow your business. And this is going to be making sure that you optimize your job listings. And I already touched on this a little bit when I talked about making sure you're clear about the roles and responsibilities that you want for the person you're trying to hire, but you want to make sure that that actually translates into an optimized job listing. You want to make sure that your job announcement, that job vacancy request is very specific and detailed on what it is that you're looking for, the expectations for this role, what they're going to be responsible for, because this is going to help you to avoid having a lot of turnover, okay? And I recently just had this experience myself, so I ended up working with someone. I've been thinking about doing a story time about this because I literally ended up ending a relationship with a $26,000 client, right? And the reason why is because when I actually met with this person, we had like a little scoping call. This person found me, and then she was saying she was looking for someone with my skill set that was very tech savvy. If you guys don't know, I do a lot of tech integrations, a lot of tech setup, email marketing setup, integrations with like ManyChat and CRMs, and setting up 𝗪𝗏 and teachable courses, Kajabi courses. Like, that's my thing. That's what I do, right? And so with that, this person, we ended up having like a little interview, and all the questions that she asked were about tech stuff. And then as soon as I actually got into the role and started working, the majority of the tasks and things that I was doing were pretty much administrative, like not even virtual assistant, more of like a personal assistant, adding stuff to her calendar, etc., right? And so quickly I was like, wait a minute, this is not the role that I thought it was going to be, right? And all of that can be avoided if you're clear in your job listing for the exact roles and responsibilities that that person is going to be expected to fulfill. You want to make sure that you outline all the roles and responsibilities in the job listing so people know what they're getting into ahead of time, and this is going to help you minimize your turnover. And let's get into the last tip for how you can minimize costs when it comes to hiring to scale your business. And this is going to be to invest in employee retention. And I know you're probably like, Ebony, you just said like this video is if I'm on a bootstrap budget. Like, what you mean invest in employee retention? Now, when I say invest in employee retention, that can look so many different ways. But if you hire someone, especially if you're going to rely on those interns, if you're going to hire entry-level contractors, employees, make sure that you're investing in them so that you're, taking them to certification classes, you're paying for them to take courses, you have an onboarding process that acclimates them to your business. When you can invest in your team and the people that you're hiring, when you build them up, when you cultivate their skill set, this is going to help them stick around longer, okay? The greater your employee retention, the lower your overhead when it comes to having to constantly rehire, refill positions. One thing that people really don't talk about enough is the cost of actually hiring employees, the cost of paying for job boards, the cost of if you hire like a talent agency or a talent acquisition company to go out and recruit people for you, the time it takes to write job announcements, the time it takes to conduct interviews, right? That process is very labor intensive, and it is also very costly. So if you can get good talent in the door in your company, you want to do whatever you can to keep them there, whether that's investing in their skill set, certifications, whether that's just having an open line of communication, whether that's giving them perks and benefits. I have a client that whenever we have really big successful lunches, we always have some type of celebration. 1 year she gave us gift cards Another session, we ended up having like a little slumber party. So there are different ways that you can actually invest in your employees and your team to make them feel valued, to help them cultivate their skills. The possibilities are really endless. Now, if you made it this far in the video, obviously you are serious about hiring your first or next team member. So make sure you check out the pinned comment below and you grab my HireCORRECT bundle. This resource is for you. It's an all-inclusive hiring and recruitment bundle that gives you everything you need to successfully hire and retain new employees, how to have an employee onboarding process, how to create job descriptions and job announcements. Those are two different things. Different best practices when it comes to knowing who to hire, red flags to look for. All of that is inside of the HireCORRECT bundle down in the pinned comment below. Other than that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for stopping by my internet home. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on those notifications so you'll be the first one to get notified anytime I upload another video just like this. Bye, y'all.